Absolutely. I think it's an important part of training the brain, right? I think I remember a bit of a story about that Army general that has been shown up on Facebook a couple of times, where he makes his bed in the morning, and that's the first win of the day. So it kind of reminds me of that when it comes to running each day. I just put a point in time that I'm going to make that run happen, and normally it's in the morning first thing, and it just clears the mind. So having a really good mindset to start off the day is really, and you can just take away some of those inner demons that we all have, and really start you on a really good part to win the day.
Welcome back to the Buyer's Agent Institute show. The purpose of the show is to bring awareness to buyer's agents, to bring awareness around the career opportunities that the buyer's agent sector is providing people, to bring awareness around the value that people using buyer's agents really do need. Our goal with the show is to strip back and dive into remarkable stories and journeys of buyer's agents who are paving the way forward in one of the fastest growing career sectors in real estate right now. Today we've got an awesome guest. We've got Luke Moroney, who's based in Sydney. Luke's got a very impressive story, in my opinion, and I'm sure a lot of other people think the same. He's got a portfolio of 30 properties in Australia. He's also got a property background. So 5 years he worked in strata management. For 3 years he worked as a property coach. And for 2 years he's been running his buyer's agent business called Search Party Property. Search Party Property buys strictly investment properties. We're going to talk about this today with Luke. I also want you to know that Luke has been running straight for 800 days. He's been running 7Ks a day for 800 days. We're also going to dive into that today. So I'm really excited to introduce Luke. We're not going to handshake because of the coronavirus, but welcome, Luke.
Thank you, Ben, and thanks for having me. It's been a really good journey through property, and a great journey, obviously, in running, because I think mindset is a big part of what we do as investors and as business owners as well.
I agree with that, and I was pretty touched when we caught up in Bondi, because you're in Bondi now, so not far from me. And you said you've been running. I've seen online though you've been running for 800 days. How did that actually start?
Well, it's just a thought process of maybe put on a couple of kilos. I'm not heavy at all, or overweight or obese or anything like that. But I just thought I'll put on a couple of kilos. I need to do something a little bit different, and I wanted to get back into running. I wasn't an avid runner. And so I was just like, I'll start out with a week of running and just see where I take it from there. 5Ks was a little bit too short, and it was like really wouldn't push me, and 10Ks was probably going to take a lot of time during my week. So I just thought, okay, let's do the 7. And just started on that progress, did a week, and then I thought, well, I can do longer than that. I was kind of inspired by my sister, who said she did 100 days of running. Wow. I'm like, okay, 100 days, I can do better than that. It's kind of that competitive nature. And I was like, I'm going to do this for a year. So 1 year turned into 2, and now I'm on the 3rd year. It's
amazing. I read that book recently, Atomic Habits.
Oh yeah, it's really good. I heard the guy speak as well. It's really...
What's it, James Clear, is that?
Yeah, that's right.
He's impressive, and it just reminded me when we were talking earlier, and I thought about your running, just the consistency of just doing it every single day. And a lot of people can't maintain, from what I'm now researching, his habits.
Yeah. I guess in that point, it's just no matter what happens in your life, that you can still remain consistent in that. And that, that is above and beyond anything that really happens. And we go through all our struggles, even if there is deaths, breakups, things that happen in our lives, that we can still remain consistent no matter what. And not many people can probably put themselves into that category. And, so far in 3 years of doing that running, and actually doing some Facebook Lives, which we've talked about before, of doing it consistently daily, of just putting the phone in front of your face and pressing play, pressing record and going live, is a good way to just push those boundaries.
I agree, and I'm sure a lot of people who are going to watch this have seen you live, or I'm sure if they haven't seen you, they're going to start watching you live.
Hopefully.
But let's talk about the live, because you started hitting that 3 years ago on Facebook, when it wasn't the norm.
No.
You were going hard then, and I'm assuming, and we haven't talked about this, you must get a lot of organic customers that come through there. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what it does do, more than anything else, is builds trust. So if you're remaining consistent and you're showing up each and every day on Facebook to tell a story about property or the economy or mindset, which is a big one, then people start to believe or see who you are. So they don't actually need to meet me to actually know who I am, because they see me so often and turning up the same way. And then if what I say resonates with them, they're going to come on board. So we don't have a presence in Melbourne, but we've still got clients that come from Melbourne on a regular basis because of what happens on social media.
Yeah, they're connecting with you, and there's an authentic self of you that shows up, and they resonate, and that's human beings. It's connection, and people buy from people they trust, that they like. And you're obviously giving people what they need through that social platform, right?
Yeah, and I think it widens our audience, right? So before we used to have to get on the phones and make multiple calls and maybe letter drops and things like that. This way you can touch more people in a quicker way and be in a consistent way and build that trust.
I talked earlier when I was introing you. You went strata management 5 years, property coach 3 years. 2 years your buyer's agent business, which I've been watching from the outside. It seems like it's growing significantly. Out of the 3, is there a preference that you enjoyed the most, or do you miss something? Or
strata management I probably don't miss. I think on the recent Opal and Mascot Towers, we definitely I could see that 10 years ago, all this happening, and there's a whole nother story around that, or a whole nother video around that. But seeing people's financial wealth diminish because of poor building standards was just difficult week in, week out to do those annual general meetings and saying we've got to raise levies all the time. So it was really difficult. Being a property coach and then buyer's agent, kind of very similar, because then I use other buyer's agents to actually get the product. Just really getting to that stance of actually thinking about wealth creation for the people. It's kind of almost like a bit of a savings plan for a lot of people. So they're not spending in other places, and it's like they've put it in property, so they kind of it's a forced saving. And they're for the people just starting out. But for the people growing, then you can just you can do this and this and that, development, renovations, granny flats, and all this exciting stuff. And then you can leave your 9-to-5 job. Going back, I think I've been out of a 9-to-5 job where I was in strata management. Yeah, absolutely. There you go. There's a bit of a quit the 9-to-5. Absolutely. Well done on that. I didn't even, it just came subconsciously, but it was an important part. I was like, I can actually get out of that. And I remember people telling me at the time, well, what if it doesn't work? I was like, well, it's not going to work. And I just thought there was no thought of a plan B, which I think it's really important to have. But in the back of my mind, I was like, I can always go back to strata management if I want to, but it's not going to happen. Right? That was the whole point of that. It was just like, I am so focused on this, I am going to win at this, and that's going to happen.
But you would think the odds of you winning at it are quite high. You got a very sizable portfolio, which we'll talk about. I'd like to hear about the first property you bought. However, you'd been immersed in property already.
It's actually going back then, I only had 5 properties. So
when you started the BA business?
Well, when I left my 9-to-5 job.
You had 5, which is still, 4% of Australian investors, own more, I think they own less than 4 properties.
Yeah, well, there's only 20,000 people in Australia that have 6 or more properties. Yeah. So that's less than 1%. So yeah, I was pretty close to that number. And, the numbers are very small when it grows over, past 1 property investment. So, I think back then I was taking a fair, sizable risk in that time of actually leaving my 9-to-5 job, leaving that security. But it actually, I was just so focused on it, and what I had in place and what the growth plan was very focused. And I spent, number of hours going to seminars, watching videos, reading books, and just so focused on that. And I'll be the first one at a seminar and the last one to leave. So just, probably leeching out on all the experts that are out there. Yeah. And then just trying to help them out as well. So, take and then give back as well. So I think
all about giving. So I said earlier, it was 4% of Aussie investors own 4 or more properties. Oh, yeah. So you were sitting, just recapping, already well above average. So, I think you coming into this space as a buyer's agent, starting your company, you are in a good position to start helping people.
Yeah, absolutely. So really good experience. Really good knowledge around markets and things like that. I've had the issues when I first started, and you mentioned about my first property. Yeah. That was a big one for me. Not realizing what I was doing, trying to do everything on my own. And this is why it's so good to see so many more buyers agents out there now, because it's creating more awareness for the general public to say, try and look to use the experts, because they can actually help you so much more than trying to do it yourself. And you're probably going to lose 50, 100, 200 grand out of a deal because you've bought in the wrong area at the wrong time, or you've bought the wrong property in the wrong area.
Yeah, our videographer, who no one can see right now, he's looking to buy his first property, and I said, you got to be careful. You got to be careful. So that one you first bought, that was in Blacktown.
Yes.
And it wasn't a good one.
No, the reason for that is I bought it back in 2002. It was pretty close to the peak of the market. So you kind of look at the 2017 market when things peaked at that time. And then we've seen, past 2017, probably a 15% drop in Sydney, then followed by a 5 of 10, probably 10% increase now. Now, past that 2002, going on the next 10 years, there was very little growth, if not any growth in the market. So if I sold, I would have lost money on that deal, stamp duty, selling costs and all that. And even, probably would have dipped 25 to 50 grand, especially if I was a motivated seller. Yes. And a lot of people did sell during that time. They bought in 2002 or 2003 and sold in 06, 07, 08, through GFC, and was like, oh, I'm going to get out. And then I've had bad tenants. But having that patience to go through that journey, I actually try to manage my tenants on my own, and for the first couple of years, and that was a disaster as well. So it was like problem after problem after problem, and all I thought about in the back of my mind is, mum and dad said, okay, it's a 50-year journey, you just hold the property, it grows, yes, and just focus on that and not worry about the ebbs and flows of it. So, and I was probably a little bit naive about it as well. I was like, yeah, I'm still working, I can still afford it, that's okay, it's not gonna be detrimental to me. So then after that, after having that experience, I was like, I've got to do this differently. And the more people I spoke to and the more seminars I went to, it was like, and then I go to these seminars and there's people that with 5 properties, 10, 15, 20, and I'm like, yes, I want some of that. Yeah. And then, it was the next day I got on the phone, organized a meeting with people, and then, then the massive growth started back in probably 2011, 2012.
Great. And I mean, you're obviously very thirsty to learn. You're saying you're the last one leaving seminars, clearly a student mindset, which I really value. You've engaged buyer's agents, right? And I love it when I see buyer's agents like you come into the industry who own property with experience, and you've actually gone through the experience of seeing the value of a buyer's agent, because as you were talking about earlier, buyer's agents are growing, and I'm trying to grow them, and we've got that abundance mindset, you and I, and we share the same values there. The general public don't know what buyer's agents are really when we think about it, right?
Well, that's where you're creating more awareness by having more people on the ground to do it. That's where us putting information on social media is creating more awareness around it. And I think we could get to the point where like in the US, where there is every transaction involves a selling agent and a buyer's agent. And I think the more people that are out there and doing it, the more it will create, the more opportunities that we'll have to actually get business. And then, when it comes to that point, the cream will rise to the top, right? So the best of the best will be known out there. So if you work hard and you build a strong business, then you can actually get success. So, I think that's, going back to your whole learning point, I'm doing various things all the time, whether it's, listening to Gary Vee and attending Tony Robbins events. And it's always a whole thing about mental health and mindset and personal development journey. And I think for all of us that we've got to realize that. So, that comes out of, watching videos like this, seeing what the experts are doing and, following in their path. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like Tony Robbins and Gary Vee have already created it for us, right?
It's true. And I want to touch on something, because when I speak to people who are looking to become buyer's agents who, whether they own 5 or less, a lot of them don't own 5 properties, I always tell them that what can happen is your portfolio can start to grow more because you're getting exposed to more stock, your relationships with agents start to tighten, and we make good money, let's not hide that. It is lucrative. And so as a result and a byproduct, you buy more property for yourself, right? You found that?
Yeah, I found that. Our actually first deal that we came about was up in Brisbane. It's a potential, it is a development site. and I bought it, when we just started our company, and I bought it for $575,000. The valuations on RP Data right now, I'd probably say, somewhere between 730 and 750. So I've made 150 grand by not doing anything to the property in like 12 or 18 months. So, that's when you can actually, get on top of these deals yourself. And the more you get for yourself, the more you build relationship with the agents, and then the more you can do deals that are great. And I think, think about the collaboration side, which we discussed on a video the other night, is, get together with other people, have that abundance mindset about it, and, you can actually build on the back of that. And the more and more people think about fees and charges and whatever that you create, maybe you almost act like an apprentice or an internship for a year and go through that process, and then get to a point where you're actually you're the expert. It's a long journey. If you want to be here for that quick buck as a buyer's agent, you're probably in the wrong arena. Well, I don't think you're in any good arena at all.
Correct.
It's a long-term game.
It's a long-term game, and it's hard work. Like with anything. I mean, I talk about quit the 9 to 5, but it's not about you work less. It's you get to choose your own hours. As an agent, I think, as a buyer's agent, you can it's flexibility. Like at strata management, I'm assuming you didn't have flexibility. Like, boys, I'm off for a swim. You can't do that.
Not at all, not at all. So I actually used to come in at 7 a.m. in the morning. I'd be the first one, turn the lights on. So I'd be there for 2 hours, and I actually got all the job orders out. So my buildings were service first in terms of repairs and maintenance. And then I'd go off to have a coffee for half an hour, but I was, not leading a good example for the other staff. But not leading a good example in going to the cafe for half an hour, but leading a good example in terms of coming into work at 7 o'clock in the morning. So, there's difference of opinions in terms of like how management thinks about things and how other staff think about things. They don't lead from or follow the whole path about turning up at 7 a.m. They follow the whole thing about people turning up at the cafe for half an hour and being out of their jobs for that long. So it is interesting how those that flexibility works, and it's one reason why I've come out of that, quit the 9 to 5, and then come out to do work, because then I'm working on a Saturday or Sunday night, whatever it might be, and if I feel like working, I will work. If I need to go out and do other things in my life, I will.
But you love it.
I absolutely love it.
So like having a chat to a client on a Saturday night or whatever, it doesn't feel like work, I'm assuming, right?
No. The best thing you can do is just be out there and talk about property and wealth creation and mindset. I think they're the deeper conversations that you really want to have with people, but I really enjoy having those deep conversations and thinking about building someone's wealth and life and path and where they want to get to, and then create some of that choice that they want in their life. What do they really want to do in their life? It goes back to what's your why and all those things. But if you took away all the money and everything, what would you really want to do? And I actually volunteer. I do a little bit of volunteering with Lifeline, and that goes very closely related to some of the property and wealth creation strategies, because some of the issues that a significant amount of issues, and I think it's about 40 or 50% of the issues in mental health are because of financial stress.
Really?
Yeah, so, and that's going to be evident, I think, in the next couple of months. That really will come up. So, I've been talking a lot on social media. Get your health and your wealth, ready and prepared, because I think it's an important time for us to think about, our immune systems and things like that with all the coronavirus, but also think about our wealth. So what are our cash buffers in place as individuals, as businesses, as employees? And just think about, maybe refinancing loans, pulling out some of that equity so you have it as an extra buffer. So it's all these things that we can do. And I talk about them on a regular basis, but I think it's more important right now.
Yeah, I'm interesting. This morning I was refinancing, pulling out equity and things, just getting it all set, because you're right, like, who knows, there's a lot of uncertainty going on globally. We can only control our effort and what is in our means, but I guess I always try and look at the opportunities with what's going on as well. Everyone's focused on the negatives and distractions. It's better time to buy now.
Well, that's why I sort of think about drawing out that equity, right? Yeah. If you have that cash available, imagine you can be a cash buyer and take a $300,000 property and buy it for $220 or $200. And that is an opportunities that will come up, and they don't come up that often. So back in the GFC, I was just talking about yesterday, they're a company in the US called Blackstone.
Yep.
They made all their wealth during the GFC, and you know they're the richest, well, the largest landowner in the US as a family right now. So it's significant if you take those opportunities when they present, and they only come around like every 10, 15 years. So get yourself prepared, get yourself ready, and you know, think about what you can do now and then into the future.
Yeah, Buffett says, be greedy when others are fearful, be fearful when others are greedy. And
but you got to prepare.
You got to prepare, and then execute. So let's quickly talk about search party properties. So you guys predominantly buy in Queensland?
Yeah, most of the deals are up in Brisbane. Yes.
IPs, investment properties.
Yep.
Your clients, are they coming from Australia-wide?
Australia-wide. We're actually seeing a lot in Melbourne, which is really super interesting, coming through. We're getting a lot in Sydney, and then you know, quite a few in Brisbane as well.
Outside of obviously connection with you, in terms of their issues as to why they think they need a buyer's agent, what are typically the reasons you're hearing? Or
they're really focusing on, people are starting to understand that expertise is needed.
Yeah.
You know, they see so many people make mistakes in property. The other one is people that are time poor. I don't have the time to research. And, you know, do people really know what they're looking at when they're looking at realestate.com.au or domain.com.au? Do they really know? No.
When I started Cohen Handler, got into the space 10 years ago, I was a young guy, but I was always just dumbfounded by why are buyers like revealing all their cards to real estate agents and like treating real estate agents like they represent them when the real estate agent represents the vendor, legally obligated to get the vendor the highest price. Why are buyers like, and so I never quite understood it. Then when I went to the US, I didn't even know buyers agents existed at that stage. And so I think a lot of people here just don't really understand their role when buying property.
No.
And a lot of them are very uneducated. And as you said, they look at a comparable sheet at an open, the agents just fluffed it all up to make their listing look good, and they go, this is what it is, and they accept it.
Well, they're trying to tap into the emotions of the buyer, and for us, it's about, you know, knowing the numbers on the deal and looking to get a discount on that property or attractive terms on the property to actually make it a deal.
Yes.
And, you know, that's what, or being the opportunity to get in first, right? So a lot of the deals that are being done, I'm sure in the home buyer space, like obviously we're in the investment space, but a lot of the deals done on the home buyer space are pre-market, off-market type of deals that come through because you've got strong relationships. So people are acknowledging that more so now, the strong relationship that we have, and we're getting deals before they actually go onto the open market.
I think as buyers agents, having access to whether it's off, pre-market, on market, or if it's priced, whatever it is, just having access to all of it is a big reason why they use us and your relationships with the agents.
It is. Like my business partner, Mark's been up in Brisbane buying property for the last 10 years. Yeah. You know, you don't develop those relationships overnight. And people that ask me, I was like, you know, I'm looking at becoming a buyer's agent, and I go and do 1,000 property inspections.
Yeah.
You know, get on the ground.
Get out there.
Get out there and start developing the relationships. And what you're going to learn is so important. So yeah, get the theory ideas and the community around what you're doing as the institute, and then look at getting yourself out there. Open inspection after open inspection. I've probably done, I don't know, 2,000-3,000 open inspections in my life. And I remember buying that, not the first property in Blacktown, but the second property I bought in Blacktown. I ended up buying that at auction. I was the only person who attended that particular auction, so I got a really good deal on that. But it took me 8 weeks to get to that point, and doing 12 inspections each day for 8 weeks, Saturday after Saturday after Saturday, building the relationships with the agent. They got sick of me by the end and was like, buy a property.
Yeah, but you had done the work. You obviously learned from the first property, I'm assuming, in terms of maybe some stuff that went wrong.
Well, the timing aspect, you know, how markets were going, and seeing all the reports coming through that, you know, Western Sydney was up for growth, and it had, you know, 10 years of you know, bad times out there, and, you know, cash flows were increasing. So it was all leading towards getting, you know, really good deals at that time. So yes. I was able to, you know, take advantage of that time. A lot of people in that area were kind of focused on getting the granny flat deals, so they were high competition in those areas, even though they've done extremely well. But I did want to get away from the competition, and I found something kind of similar, but it had a pull at the back. So the granny flat opportunity wasn't there, and it would have cost me too much. So just buying the regular house with the pool worked just as well as a granny flat deal.
Yeah, it's amazing. Obviously, I'm sure the deal flow that you're presenting to clients is opportunistic. you're getting access to so much good stuff because you guys, like Mark's been on the ground there for 10 years buying with what you've done yourself with your company. So I guess as we finish up now, I'm sure a lot of people have seen you, but where can people find you if they want to see more of you?
You can find me everywhere. No, so Facebook, Luke Moroney. Just have a look. There's a red T-shirt. It actually says Hustle on it. That's Gary V's T-shirt. Maybe I have to change that up. Instagram, LinkedIn. My email is Luke at searchpartyproperty.com.au. And then, give me a call. I post our numbers on all our social media. So, reach out. Happy to talk to people who are just starting out. Happy to talk to people about joint deals. Happy to just talk to people about mindset, lifeline, running, whatever.
Yeah, you're an inspiring guy. I'm a big fan of you. I won't shake your hand because the coronavirus, I found that out this morning, don't shake. But I really appreciate you being here and hearing your story. I mean, it's remarkable what you've done. And even when you're saying quitting the 9 to 5 from the strata management, just backing yourself and getting out there and starting a business and following your passion. Guys, as we wrap up, if you haven't seen Luke, check him out on the channels that are on the TV, showing you now. Just check him out. He's very diligent and disciplined and consistent with what he does. And so you'll see a lot of content coming from him, super knowledgeable, obviously 30 properties, great buyer's agent business. You can learn a lot from him. See you next week.